Hey guys and gals, friends of YouTube, Love to Fly Hellies here with another video request. My friend Dan wants to see a video on how to find the CG and how to set it, the best ways and stuff, and I'm going to show him what I know, how I do it. Anybody else out there has any better information, then please contact him and let him know. But this is how I've been doing it, and it works fine. Balance of your plane, Dan, is probably the most important thing out of everything. I mean, of course, you got to have good electronics and good contacts and stuff. But if your plane's out of balance, bad, it's not going to fly. And if it's real bad out of balance, chances are you're going to crash it. So it's very, very important to get one balanced right. One thing I recommend, and I've only seen this on 2 planes, I think, out of the ones I've had, and I've had several of them, hundreds of them in the last 8 years, 9 years. I had my Yak 54 from Seagull Models. The book was wrong, and when I built the plane, I just built it according to the manual, and I took off, and it was like it had a 10-pound sack of potatoes tied on the tail end of it. It was just sagging. I never got it back on the ground. So then I went to the Horizon Hobby site where I bought it and started looking at the reviews, and every review in there was complaining about the CG being off. I should have done that first. So what I recommend, if you buy a plane, if there's any reviews on it at all, look at those reviews before you build it and see if there's any discrepancies in the manual that's wrong, and they'll be on there. People will tell you. So that's what I do anymore. If it's somewhere from Tower Hobbies or Horizon or something like that, Hobby King, there's usually reviews, and I always look at those to see what people are saying about the aircraft before I put it together. Anyway, the CG will usually be toward the last page. What we've got here today is the Fly Zone Select 0, and it's next to the last page almost. Anyway, it will tell you the recommended CG in here, and usually, well, like this one, it's 2 3/4 inches or 70 millimeters back from the leading edge, right next to the fuselage. Now, it's important that you don't go out on the wing farther. You need to measure it right at the side of the fuselage. This one gives you a tolerance of plus or minus a 1/2 inch or 13 millimeters. So this one has a big tolerance. So it will fly within an inch there, and that's, but I would recommend starting out what they say to start with, and then fly it. And then if you feel like it's just not flying right for you, maybe it feels a little tail heavy, then adjust it slightly more nose heavy, or vice versa, until you get the aircraft to feel like you want it to feel and fly really well. A slightly tail heavy aircraft is easier to control, flies pretty good. You have to come in a little slightly faster with it. A nose heavy plane is going to be hard to control but more snappy, and you get one that's real nose heavy and it'll just, you can't hardly land it. It's just wanting to porpoise and jump up and down every movement of the stick. A tail heavy plane, if it's real bad tail heavy, it'll feel like there's a sack of taters tied on the tail, and you have to come in real fast. If you slow your throttle down too much, the back end of it will just start sagging like that, and so you got to land one real hot. So balance is very, very important, and a lot of people balance their plane front to aft, and that is important. But you also got to take in consideration your lateral balance. A lot of people don't do that. Now, matter of fact, I haven't checked the lateral balance on this plane. If you're just gonna get an old Piper Cub just to fly around and putt, it's not that important. If the lateral balance is off slightly, one wing slightly heavier than the other, you just trim it out to fly like that, and you can fly it. If you've got an acrobatic plane that you're going to be doing acrobat rolls, loops, snap rolls, things like that, it's real important for it to be lateral balanced as well, because if you do a 3-barrel roll, by the second or third one, your plane is going to start getting out of round because it's off balance. And another balance issue, if you get into 3D, they even balance them in a vertical position where it'll, fall forwards or backwards. And I've never even done that, so I can't tell you anything about that. But most important, the two is front to back and lateral. And I'll show you what we do on front to back. This particular plane is right on the first ridge line, right there on top or bottom. So this one, you don't even have to mark it. But if you did have to mark one, here's what I do. I set my plane up level, put a box or something under it, and then I take a ruler and stick it straight up and down. I usually stand up to do this to make sure my ruler is 90 degrees up. And then you can lay this on the wing and push it up against that, then hold it in place, and then make a mark, like 70 millimeters or whatever your reading is. Okay, then after you make that mark, then I take a little strip of, this is a painter's masking tape. I take a little strip of that masking tape and I put it right on the line to where it calls for the balance. This does two things. It marks your balance line, your CG, but it also, you can feel it with your fingers too. Now, here's another question that I've had several people ask me. On a low wing plane, don't you have to balance it upside down? No, you don't have to. It will be a little easier because you have the weight of the fuselage hanging down. But center of gravity line on an aircraft, that's center of gravity whether it's upside down or right side up. It does not matter. It's just easier because you got more room with the wing with it upside down. So either way, if you want to balance it like this, you can. But if you want to flip it over, now any top wing plane, of course, it's easier with it sitting on its lander gear. But center of gravity is center of gravity, whether it's upside down or right side up. So that does not matter. Now, on a say an ARF balsa kit, it's got covering. It's a balsa ply frame, and it's got covering over it. Usually, the first this is a general rule of thumb. The first ridge of it's not a wing spar. The spars go this way. I can't think of what it's called. But anyway, that first board running this way, generally, that's right about your center of gravity. So in other words, if you buy a used plane from someone, and it's an older plane, and you don't have a manual, and they've taken the engine and stuff out, and you have to put your own engine and everything in it, well, you got to balance it. So general rule of thumb, a lot of times you can go by that, but it's not always right. I have seen a couple planes that was off a quarter to a half an inch. But generally speaking, that first spar across there is where your CG is. But don't always count on it being perfect. Anyway, I've got my tape on here. Excuse me. Gosh dang it. Let's go ahead and turn this upside down, since it is a low wing. We'll lay it on the table. You can look under here and get your fingers right on it, or now I've got this one balanced just slightly, just a hair to the tail heavy. I'm probably an eighth of an inch back from my line. But see how that sets right on the tips of your fingers and it doesn't teeter and top? That's perfectly balanced. Now you want your battery in it. If it's an electric, you have to put your battery in there to balance it. And if it's off balance, then slide your battery forward or back. Once you get it to where it balances, mark that in there with a Sharpie or something, piece of tape, so you know right where the end of your battery goes. Okay? Now, if I balance this right side up, it will balance. Let me get my fingers on it. But it's harder to hold it steady. What it'll want to do is slightly teeter. But if you set it center and it just leans to the back a little, or you set it center and it leans slightly to the front, it's okay. But the best way is on a low wing to do it upside down, because you have the weight of the fuselage hanging down, and that will help keep it on the balance point. So when you turn it back over, then it's obviously balanced. Now, there's all kinds of CG machines out there. Great Plains makes one, and I'm going to be honest with you, I like Great Plains products, but I do not like that balancer. It's cheap, it's flimsy. It might be alright on a plane this size or smaller, but I don't like it. I wouldn't waste my money on it, but that's my opinion. I know a lot of people that use it. There are some good heavier ones on the market made out of wood. You can even make your own. But the best thing you can do, the tips of your fingers. That works just as good as anything. Anyway, the main thing you want to do on your fingers is use the finger straight up. Do not lay the wing on your finger like this because it's not going to pivot right, so your balance can be off. Make sure you use the tip of your finger and they're just like that, so it'll have a teeter point. Okay. Now, to lateral balance one, I recommend turning it on. And let's see if I can get a hold of this here, maybe where you can see it. Now I'm just going to use my fingers. Okay, this plane is perfectly lateral balance. It's not tipping. Generally, you pick one up, and it's not. I'm going to do this on purpose. You pick one up, and if it tips to the right, then your right wing's heavier. Okay, this one is perfect, and I'm just putting my fingertip right under the little tail here, and then holding up on the tip of the prop. Now, one thing you can do on a bigger plane is get somebody to help you, your wife, a friend, whatever. Take a piece of cord or heavy thread, coat thread or a string, make you a loop about that big around, 12 inches long. Okay, take that loop, one of you take the loop and put it underneath your tail section, sometimes even right underneath the rudder, but make sure your power system on so your rudder stays locked. Okay, put that loop on there, whoever's on the back of the plane, and pick it up, and you can do it by yourself too. Pick that up by that and the prop, or hold on to the nose cone. If it's a nitro or gas engine, make sure that your compression line is where it turns really. You don't want it locked up here on that compression. So rotate that around to where at the top it'll be loose, and then you can use the nose cone, or if a blade happens to stick upright, use that. Okay. That's the best way to lateral balance. Alright, now say your right wing tips down, it's slightly heavier. Okay, what you do is you take your weights. You can buy little lead weights with sticky on them. Do not trust the sticky, whatever you do. Glue them in. You lay on the left wing. Well, let's say on this one the left wing's heavier. Lay a piece of weight right out here on the end and stick it with a piece of tape or right here, whatever. Now put it on your CG line from front to aft, but stick it right there on the end. The farther out you can put your weight, the less weight you have to add to it. Okay, put you a quarter ounce or whatever you're going to start with right here. Lateral balance again. Once you get that to where that balance is good, then you turn that airplane over, and on a balsa sheeted covering kit, you would cut a little hole in the covering and just 3 sides, and then peel that back, glue your weight inside there to the wood frame with epoxy, and then put that little flat back down and put a piece of clear tape over it, or if you have covering and a covering iron, just put a new piece over that hole. But the farther out you can get it to the end, the less weight you're going to have to add to your aircraft. Okay, same thing on aft to lateral. Try to put if it's tail heavy, try to put as little weight as you can as far to the front as you can. On a nitro gas engine mount, you can mount weight to the motor mount itself up here inside the cowl. So the farther forward you get, the less weight you have to add. Okay, and same thing with the back. The farther back, I've had to take planes and I've had to cut a hole in the belly right back here in front of the tail wheel and mount some weight inside there to get it, because it was so nose heavy. So you do whatever you got to do, but you want to try to balance it with the electronics and stuff in it, the batteries, without having to add any weight. The lighter the plane, the better it flies. You got a heavy plane, it'll fly, but you're going to have to land it hot and stuff. So what I do when I build an ARF balsa kit, I build the plane completely without installing the batteries. Okay, and then when I am ready to that point, I put the wings on it, set it up here on my table, and then I will lay my battery. I'll look inside first and pick out where I might be able to mount it. I'll lay my battery, say right here, and I'll try the balance, or if I'll turn it upside down. And then once I get that battery like right where it needs to go for the balance, then I take on the inside and I build me a little box to mount that battery to. Now generally speaking, a nitro or gas engine, the gas engine is usually the head straight down, but a nitro engine, a lot of times they come out to the side, and you got your muffler right down here, so you have a little more weight. So generally speaking, on an ARF nitro plane, your right wing tends to be heavier because of the way the engine is mounted. So you generally end up putting a quarter ounce or half ounce in the tip of the left wing. But to balance it, when I put my battery, okay, say it goes right there, I'll even stick it over here to the side if I can. And then when I mount that inside, I will put the battery up against the left side of the fuselage to kind of compensate for some of that weight. That saves a little bit more weight that I have to put in the tip of that wing. Keep your weight as low as possible on your airplane, and it will fly way better for you, and you'll love it. I think that's about it. I hope I made sense on all this for you. But the styrofoam ones like this that are come ready to fly, they're pretty generally balanced for the most part. You do have an option usually of sliding your battery forward or back just a little bit and then mark that. But they're all set up. But when you build an ARF kit, you never know where that balance is going to be. So always leave your battery out until last. If it's a gas model, generally you're going to have 2 batteries. They do have a new system now that you can only use 1, but most people have 2. So keep those batteries out till the very last, and put some sticky, double-sided sticky on here where you can stick it to the outside of the plane where it don't fall off. Mount your batteries until you get it balanced, and that'll tell you where you got to put them inside that plane. But balance is very, very important. Keep that in mind. And a lot of people forget the lateral balance, so always try to lateral balance your planes as well as front to aft. And you'll be very pleased with the way they fly. They fly way better, much better if they're balanced right. Okay, Dan, I hope that helped you out, or anybody else. And if I missed something, which I can't think I did, I think I pretty well covered all of it. But if there's any more questions that you have, just feel free to contact me, buddy, and I'll try to answer them for you. And if I can't, I'll put you in contact with somebody that can. So I got a lot of friends out here on YouTube that do a lot of informational videos, and there's people that know things that I don't know. And so if I don't know what to tell you, if I can't answer your question, then I will put you in contact with somebody that can. So anyway, good luck with your flying, and I hope your balancing techniques work out. I've been flying for 9 years. Haven't had any problem the way I do it. So, but if anybody out there has any better techniques or tips to give Dan, please contact him. His channel, I believe, is Slow Viper, SLOVIPER. That's his YouTube channel. But if anybody else can give him some better information or any information, please feel free to contact him and do so. All right, Dan, thanks a bunch. And thank everybody else for watching. We'll see you guys on the tube. Take care. Okay, Dan, a couple things I forgot to mention, and I knew I would, but I told you how on a ARF balsa you can cut a little hole in the covering and peel it back and glue your weight in on lateral balance, and then you can put a piece of clear packing tape over that or a new piece of covering, whichever. On a foam plane, usually the wings are solid foam. You can do one of 2 things. You can glue or tape that piece of weight to the bottom of the wing. The ones you buy come in little flat, very flat pieces. Or you can kind of hone out a little hole in the foam and glue it up in there, and then you can paint over that, or just put epoxy over it or whatever, and that'll work. Now your weights you can buy them at all hobby shops, Tower, Horizon. Anybody should have a strip of them. They're usually in like 1/4 ounce weights. What I do is I go to Walmart and I buy fishing weights, and I buy a whole bunch of different sizes, little bitty down to 1/4 ounce, little round shot sinkers, up to 2 ounce weight, the bigger ones. I take them outside with a hammer, and I get on a piece of concrete, and I pound them flat. You can flatten them out real easy, and I pound them flat to where they're like a 1/16 of an inch thick, eighth of an. I mean, yeah, about a 1/16 of an inch thick. 1 to 2 millimeters. Then you flatten them out. If you have to use 2 or 3 of them, you can epoxy them together in a sandwich and then glue that whole unit inside your wing. Generally on most foam planes, I've never had to put hardly any weight in the tips of the wings for lateral balance, but on my ARF frame planes, I have almost all of them I've had to balance. I've had 1 or 2 that I didn't have to do lateral balance. But you can buy the preformed weights. They do come with sticky back, but do not trust the sticky back. It will not hold. They will come loose. So epoxy those in. If you buy sinkers, get you a good hammer, take them outside, flatten them little dudes out, use 6-minute epoxy, and glue them dudes inside your wing. And I've only had, I think, out of, I don't know how many 100 planes I've had 1 come loose. So anyway, just want to throw that in there about your weights for your lateral balance. So take care.